Okay, we're live. We are live. We have 0 viewers.
We're going to give a workshop to ourselves.
Well, wouldn't that be something if somebody jumps on going, wait, let me see what this is about?
Yeah. Can you mute people when they come on?
I think they're automatically muted. There's no, yeah.
But can you control it if you had to? Like on Zoom, you can mute everybody with the background noise, and they can mute themselves when they want to.
Yeah, they're already muted. So the only way that they can not be muted is if I invite them in to be one of the guests on the screen.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, everybody is in listen mode only.
Can we see them?
I don't believe, no, we can't see them. They can just watch and then they can type in their comments.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Okay.
Yeah, so that's how it's a little different.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, cool. All right, so we are live. Hey, everybody, welcome. Thank you for jumping on How to Thrive in a Business Pandemic. We really appreciate you taking time out at the end of your day to watch this live stream. It's being live streamed on LinkedIn and YouTube, so it will be available for you to watch again. I'd also like to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Sweetwater's Coffee and Tea, who will be opening up shop, the first shop in Illinois, hopefully within the next few months with this pandemic going on. So they are actually listening to the live stream as well. And as a treat, we are providing a link in the comments where you can download their WhatsApp app to have exclusive access to deals. Only those people who download the app are going to have access to those specials and deals. So big shout out and thank you to Sweetwater's Coffee and Tea for sponsoring us today. So today, I am Franklin Rivera. I have with me Kevin White. We are going to, not Kevin White. That's my buddy. Kevin, you're on the stream. Oh, I tell you, Kevin Harris.
That's all right.
Thanks, Kevin Harris.
Too many Kevins out there.
The Kevin Harris is on the stream with me. Thank you so much for joining. Kevin, why don't you introduce yourself? Let everybody know who you are.
Well, thanks everyone for joining. We're really excited about an opportunity to share some insights we've learned over the last several years and getting a chance to share some of that with you. So as Franklin mentioned, my name is Kevin Harris. I've had a background in oil and gas and higher education. I've worked in oil fields. I've worked in manufacturing plants. I've done sales. I've done international business. I've been to every continent except for Antarctica and Australia doing business. And I've run a $100 million chemical business, and I've also worked in functions such as finance and more recently facilities management. I also have my own business, Bedrock Assets, and what we do is we help leaders grow their business, particularly middle and small and medium-sized companies. And my background, education, went to Howard University in DC, got a master's from Georgia Tech, both in engineering, with a focus on heat transfer, and also later on went and got my MBA from Kellogg here at Northwestern University. And so I'm excited to be able to join you. I'm excited to share some insights from what I've learned from my businesses and the people that I've helped along the way. And, Franklin, I met a few years ago, and he's got, just a wealth of background himself. So maybe, Frank, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us something about your background?
Thanks, Kevin. Engineering degree. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, mechanical engineering degree. Yeah.
Oh, man. Did you have to take Did you have to take thermofluid dynamics?
I did. Yeah. I took thermo, took fluid, took heat transfer. It's good stuff. I liked it for a little while.
Yeah. So, everybody goes to West Point, comes out with an engineering degree. I had to take thermofluid dynamics, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, all of that stuff. I did not like it for a little while. But anyway, hey, everybody. My name is Frank Rivera, and I'm a West Point graduate, Gulf War veteran, got out as a captain, entered the pharmaceutical industry, where I was a top salesperson for many years, won a lot of trips, and just took a liking to the digital world. So I guess you could say I'm a tech head. And with that, I dove into digital marketing, started building websites in '98. And 2011, started my own company, the V2M2 Group, with a focus on digital marketing and revenue generation for our clients. So we'll kind of get into that a little bit later. I'm also an adjunct professor of internet marketing and social media marketing at Aurora University. I am on the Small Business Owners Committee for Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce, where we look to help solve small business challenges. So that's a little bit about me, and really, the reason this talk came about was from an article that I read in a Harvard Business Review called "Roaring Out of a Recession." Roaring out of a recession. And what was really interesting was they looked at 4,700 companies that have been through 3 recessions. And they said, okay, what are some commonalities between all of these businesses? What are they doing? What helped those 9%, only 9%, come out ahead of their competition? And Kevin and I are going to discuss what those companies actually did and how you can actually take this actionable insight and apply it to your businesses today. So Kevin has come up with a framework for a discussion today. You want to share that, Kevin?
Yeah, so one of the things we learned from reading this article and from our own experiences is there's kind of 5 areas that you look at that allow you to discuss this and draw some things out of it. One is first is opportunity. During times of massive change, like we saw in 2008 during the recession, we've seen these kinds of things before. These are also times of opportunity, and companies that take advantage of that really find themselves able to thrive afterwards. Next is innovation. When you find opportunity, do you have the infrastructure around you that allows you to innovate in a way that makes it useful and productive? Next behind that is times of great change, like times of this pandemic, and times of withdrawal are also great times to learn. So whether it's taking classes or building a new skill set, we're going to go into a new normal. We're hearing that almost every day on every news show that we're going into a new normal. And so things are going to change. And if we can learn along with that, we can learn to adjust to the change and be able to thrive afterwards versus no longer being relevant afterwards, which is going to happen to a lot of people. Next is improvement. Business pandemics are a time of improvement. So it may not be a time of creating new products or services. It might be a time to improve your current processes, your current way of doing business, how you engage with customers, how you market. This is a great time for opportunity, but also a great time to improve what you already have. And then lastly is execution. If we don't do all this, if we don't execute, it doesn't mean anything. So opportunity, innovation, learning, improvement, and execution. That's kind of the framework we want to begin working with as we look at what the opportunities are. And so, Franklin, as you read this article and you saw these companies, how would you begin with the opportunity framework, and what did you see from the article, and what have you seen in your business as you've gone through this?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, that's an awesome question. The minute you started asking me that question, a lot of things jumped into my head. When I think of opportunity, I think really there has to be a paradigm shift. There has to be a comfort level, or at least someone to help guide you into thinking to do business differently. And now I'm speaking strictly from a marketer's point of view. But I believe now people are seeing the relevance and the seriousness of having that online presence today. And what has been thought of as largely transactional marketing, okay, which I like to say is that push type of marketing where people are just pushing their messages out there regardless of what your particular needs are or interests. That's gone. It's now about building up that visibility and that community online. And those companies that are able to do this, and this is really, really important, if you can build a community, you can monetize that community. And think of it not just monetizing throughout this pandemic, but it's like a relationship. This is going to have lasting effects long after the pandemic is over because you've built that community. Think of a community of friends. Everybody here that is on this call, basically, I would say, safe to say, it's the community of both Kevin and myself, right? And it's because of that community you are here on this call, and because you have a respect, hopefully, for our knowledge and the insight that we're going to provide for you. That answer your question there?
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think I was looking at something recently around opportunity. And so, history has shown us that opportunities arise during times of massive change and retrenchment. And so many of your companies have gone through retrenchment. You've furloughed employees, you've laid off employees, you're looking very aggressively at cost cutting measures. Hopefully you begin to execute some of those already because you've had to, above and beyond just reducing your employee costs and some of your fixed costs. But there's got to be more because we can't save our way to prosperity. And there's some companies I wanted to highlight that during the last major financial recession did some of these things. They saw an opportunity and they took advantage of it. One of the ones I want to bring up is Instagram. Instagram started during the last pandemic and in 2008. And, obviously they were sold a few years later for $1 billion. Facebook bought them. We have WhatsApp began the same time period. They saw an opportunity because not everybody had internet access like we have in America. And so they saw an opportunity to expand that into the broader world using a different application. And today they're worth $19 billion. Last one I'll bring up is not quite as profitable, it's still very effective, is Groupon. Groupon saw in the last recession that there is a need for coupons and people are no longer cutting coupons from newspapers. There was a desire to take advantage of it. They saw customers such as your grocery store chains, other places who want to leverage coupons. And so they found a way of doing it online, in this case, where you can take advantage of that. And now you've seen it go pretty broad, and they're worth over $700 million today. Areas of opportunity, but it's not always an instant success. So we're seeing right now a shift in how we do our grocery shopping, Frank. And so many people today are no longer driving to the grocery store to get their groceries. They're ordering them online. And oftentimes they're using an app called Instacart. Instacart announced in late March, when the pandemic was really beginning to go strong, that they're going to hire 300,000 people. Instacart started in 2012, so it's 8 years old. It was not an instant success, although they call it Instacart. It was not an instant success. You've heard the saying that it took me a lifetime to become an instant success. That's Instacart. They started 8 years ago, but today they are one of the most popular grocery driving applications available. And many of your teenagers are in high school and college students are using them. And many adults who have been laid off are working for them because you can make actually decent money. I've got a colleague of mine who has a friend who works for them, and they're making $200 to $300 a day. Now, that's not going to, pay your mortgage and your light bill, but it does keep the cash flow coming in, and it creates opportunity. So Instacart is another example of, they saw an opportunity. The opportunity is now able to grow and expand, and many of you on this call today are using them. And if you're not, you might be using them soon after. So these are certainly times of opportunity. And if I can make it more specific to your businesses, for those of you on the phone, on the Zoom, on the stream today, now is the time, as we look at this pandemic, to look beyond next week and look beyond cost saving metrics and how you're going to work with the banks. I know you have to do that, but in addition to that, carve out an hour or two a day to think through what will the world or your world look like 2 years from now, 5 years from now, and how can you adjust accordingly? If business is going to be more and more in home, where is the opportunity? For example, this is in the Wall Street Journal just this past weekend. If you're a contractor, you have contractors who do painting, they do all sorts of electrical work, drywall work, etc. What is now growing, because the economy is going to shift and more people are going to work from home. So what's happening is people want home offices more than ever before because their students are also home as well, and they might be doing more online classes. So there is a desire to build out space in people's homes to make offices, especially in those who are in a higher net worth category. They're looking to expand and grow to have a much more, a nicer office. They call it luxury offices. So if you're in that market of being a contractor, if you can market your ability to do that, there's a market for you right now to make a lot of money. But if you don't see the opportunity, then you might simply stay with changing out bathrooms and finishing basements. And people right now are not finishing basements. They're not renewing their bathrooms. They're not getting new kitchens. So opportunity is there, Franklin. And it's opportunities that we can all take advantage of. And as you look, Franklin, as we go through this framework, I'm not sure if you want to ask more about opportunity, but if not, what about innovation? That's something that your company really has done well at. And how can companies innovate differently during the business pandemic that might allow them to thrive?
Innovate. Wow. Yeah, great question. And I've become of the mindset that it's easier for some than others. Sort of the left brain, right brain.
Hmm.
You have the creatives that it's easy for them to innovate. Then you have the others that are not so creative. That's difficult. Before I answer that question, though, I realize I don't think I answered your last question fully.
Hmm.
And with that article, what was really surprising to me was that the companies that were successful employed a combination of both defensive and offensive tactics.
Yes, yes.
And what really surprised me was they said the companies that just laid off people defensive were not in that 9%. So we
Hmm.
see today a lot of businesses are just laying people off.
Hmm.
Well, those companies that made it through 3 recessions were not the ones that just laid people off. The other thing that was surprising was that the companies actually increased marketing spend more than pre-recession. So
Okay,
they were
wait.
spending.
Stop. That doesn't seem to make any sense to me, right? So I read that, and then I'm an engineer by training. I run business, but tell me more about this, Franklin. Why would they increase marketing expense during a financial pandemic, and why did that work?
You know what? If you really think about it and break it down to its most basic term, you're doing what everybody else is not doing.
Mm.
Because during times of struggle, it's no secret. Marketing just goes. Marketing is the first thing that goes. For me, I'm a marketer, so I might be a little biased, but as a business person, that just does not seem to make any sense to me. Um, I like to tie everything. When I got my master's, I got my master's with a focus on finance, and I hated finance, but
Mm.
I understood that if I understood the money, you could keep your business sustainable if you understood the money. And how are you going to bring in the money? By getting the word out there. So why would you cut the very thing that's putting the word out there? You
Mm.
know? So did that answer your question? My mind moves at a million miles per minute.
Yeah,
So
it does. And what it actually draws me into as we talk about marketing, getting the word out there, is that if we speak to even innovation or opportunity, if I have an opportunity and I don't have the skill set to do it, I want to find someone who does, but I want to do something different. And if I know you're out there and you can help me do something different, then I can leverage that. I can leverage that business. If you're a consulting firm and you can consult in a different way than others are consulting, that might help me grow past this business pandemic, then that's helpful. If you're a financial firm and you have a different financial tool, way of going about it, then if I know about you, then I might be able to reach out to you. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense on how you market that.
so that brings up then org development, because you have a lot of companies and a lot of people on online know this. A lot of us work in our companies instead of on our companies, or in our business instead of on our businesses. I think a lot of that has to do with the structure within the business. If you don't have that person that has that mindset to say, what, we need to be innovative, or here is a market advantage that we can have. Maybe just looking at a basic SWOT analysis type of scenario. If you don't have the person that has that skill set in order to do that, that is a gap, and that could be the one thing that's. So when we talk about org development, because I don't think a lot of mostly small businesses even think of that word, or how are they going to apply it?
They don't, and so that leads us to the learning piece of it. I did some consulting for an organization, it's an Asian organization, and that's one thing they did want to focus on was org development. And for them, it was all around how can they upskill their people on leadership skills. They had the day-to-day tactical skills. They knew how to do that. They were very good at that. But what their people struggled with were critical thinking, how to think strategically, how to manage conflict resolution, how to actually, oh, I like this screen better. It's much better. It's bigger. Uh, how do they deal with different generations in the workforce and communicate across those? So they hired me to come in and develop their organization, upskill the organization. They saw a huge success afterwards. And I think we're seeing that in other companies that will thrive. I think we saw that in the Harvard Business Review, that people will sometimes leverage this time, because just like headcount reductions are the first thing to go and marketing goes quickly after that,
Mm-hmm.
I'd argue even before headcount reductions go, they cut out their development. their training organization. And development is not always training, but it certainly is looking at your people and seeing what skills they might need and how you might upskill them for this next generation that's going to be coming, for this next time that's going to be coming. So it could be as simple as finding LinkedIn training that might be helpful to your employees, the soft skills. It could be bringing someone in like me or you to help develop their skill sets, or it could be something like taking a class. It's a great time to do online classes. I recently got my Lean Six Sigma certification, and I've been leveraging that for a while. So these are times where you can really build your people. So as you come out of the pandemic, you're more prepared than your competitors. Because I guarantee you, your competitors, some of them are, most of them are not. Most of them are just trying to survive until tomorrow. And as a result, as the pandemic ends, they're unprepared. Whereas those competitors who are developing their skills, their core people, you can't always train everybody, but if you have some core people that you really grow them and upskill them, you redesign your organization, maybe you shift the reporting structures, maybe you shift some of your internal processes. I have a client that I work with now where we changed how they do the performance review cycle. And in doing so, it created more space and time for this leader to grow the business. And when they come out of this pandemic, they're going to be more prepared because they'll have more time to develop their strategy, execute that strategy, and they're going to be way ahead of their competitor when they come out. So these are certainly times to develop the organization, leverage marketing, the same thing those 9% companies did. As you mentioned, you said the words you used, I wrote it down. They're doing what everybody is not doing.
Right.
And I'd also say it differently, maybe, is you don't want to be in the sea of sameness. Everyone is reducing costs, which you have to do. Don't get us wrong. You have to manage your costs, but you can manage those costs in a very strategic way as well, so that you're cutting the right costs, and you may want to invest in the areas where you may not have had before. So as you look at that, Franklin, from your business and some of your clients you've helped, and you look at innovating and learning, how has that helped? How have you been able to help your clients during times like now? And how might those on the stream right now be able to leverage some of that insight?
Well, I think that's a great question. I think that the thing that has really set us apart is I'm in that lower end of the bell curve, the early adopters. So, when you have the bell curve, you look at early adopters, and you have the adopters, and you have the late adopters. And I've always thought on the early adopters part of that bell curve. So I'm always looking for technology that can be leveraged that all of the competition is not leveraging. So, for example, I read a little while back that messaging apps, it was predicted that messaging apps were going to take over video. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen, but I can certainly see that in some aspects. So, for example, when you're looking at things like WhatsApp, GroupMe, Facebook Messenger, Line, there's a reason why WeChat is, even though it's very popular mostly in China, but WeChat has built an infrastructure that allows you to market, to do online payments, to call, to do video, everything in one app. So when you think about it, here in the United States, you're thinking, wait a minute, are any other businesses using a free application like WhatsApp for Business to market themselves, or are they going the other route saying, you know what, I need to find an application developer to develop a mobile app for me so I can have my own branded app? Is that really a wise spend for your resources, of your capital? Whereas you already have an application like WhatsApp that has, I'm not quite sure what the numbers are, hundreds of thousands of users. I don't think I know anybody in the United States right now that probably has not heard of WhatsApp or just does not have it downloaded on their phone. And if you're able to get your business into something like WhatsApp and use that as a marketing tool, you now have, think of it this way. So this is thinking outside the box. How many of us get emails out there that we have no interest in getting?
Yeah.
All the time, right? I think my email is like, between all my accounts, 8,000 emails. Half of them I have no interest in. However, if you have enough interest to download an app or to connect with a company on an application, think of that as a double opt-in. You're showing an extreme amount of interest in that business, and then you as a business now have that person held captive to your information because they are interested in what you have to say or in your products enough to download the app and to connect with you on that application. Now, if you think about all of your competition, when we think about, I think about the restaurant industry a lot. Everybody had to go to online ordering. Everybody had to go to delivery or curbside pickup. Well, I'm just going to jump on the bandwagon and do what everybody else is doing. That's fine. But how now the playing field is even because everybody else is doing that. So what are you going to do differently than everybody else? And that's where we come in. We come in and look at, okay, what apps are out there? What applications? What angle can you take that everybody else is not taking? And I'll tell you, with several of our clients, it has been messaging apps because we know all of your competition is not doing that. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. It talks quite a bit about how you've leveraged that opportunity. And so as companies begin to learn through this pandemic, I think another thing that helps people thrive in the pandemic, and you look at companies who have thrived in the past during difficult times. I look at Pinterest. So Pinterest began in 2008 in the last cycle as well, and they saw an opportunity, and they learned from what people were doing. And I'd argue that companies out there that are learning from what people are doing are going to be able to thrive, because if our ability to learn, and the data shows us that adults are the worst learners in the world. Children are the best learners, and the younger they are, the more they're learning. You see that with your own children. When they're babies and young, they're like little sponges. But as we become adults, we tend to challenge the learning. We'll challenge the data, and we tend just not to be very good learners. The results of that is when times of massive change come, we don't adjust quickly enough. And so if we can learn through some of that, we will see opportunities coming our way that we haven't seen before, and we'll be able to thrive in this business pandemic. So for example, I mentioned I've got a Lean Six Sigma certification, and I've been doing process improvement for many, many years because process improvement will help your business grow. It's a great way to cut your cost without seeing the massive impact. In other words, you cut your costs and you improve your business. It's not just cutting heads, but you can reduce your costs by actually doing process improvement around some areas. You can either make your financial processes more efficient. For example, if it's taking you 3 weeks to close your books, then something is not right. If your accountant is not getting back to you in a timely manner, something's probably not right, and you're spending money you don't need to be spending. You have fixed costs in place right now. Listen, if you've got a large business, or if you've got a business that's really dependent upon people physically showing up at work, now is a good time to look at your business differently, because you've learned from what people are doing. You've seen how the market is shifting. Now's the time to begin looking at your rent structure, looking at your facilities cost, and maybe you can do something very different going forward if you plan for it, not right now, that allows you to reduce your costs, but also allows you to actually operate better as you come out of this. Maybe you don't need to spend as much time traveling anymore. Listen, in the past, we've always had video conferencing, but people still travel a lot. And I'm one who believes, like many of you on the stream, that there's value in face-to-face conversation that you just can't get from a video call, and certainly not from a phone call. But that said, more and more people are becoming more comfortable with some of the software that's out there, such as this software, Zoom, WebEx. There's several different software applications that are out there that people are using today.
But Kevin, wait.
Go ahead.
Look, this is what you do. So that's so easy for you to understand. A lot of companies are sitting there going, I don't know what I need to focus on. I don't know where I need to cut costs. I don't know how to figure out any of this. All I know is that I'm trying to bring money in and keep my head above water. So where do they start?
That's a good question. So you can either do it yourself, you bring in someone like myself or Frank, or someone at low cost. For example, you can just do what we call a Boston diagram. It's make a square, put a cross between the two, and you want to look at, cost on one side, value on the other. You're going to put all your activity sets in one of those boxes, right? And you're going to start, once you do that, it becomes very obvious what is high value and what is not, and what is high cost and what is not. There might be some things that are high cost and low value that you can get rid of right away. And there might be some things that are low cost and high value that you might want to do more of. Once you kind of lay out that Boston diagram, it becomes a bit more obvious on what to work on. And then you could bring in, again, someone like myself or Frank or somebody else, or you could do it yourself maybe, and begin to titrate on what you want to focus on that will increase your revenue while reducing your costs. What do you have the skill set for? There might be some things in there that you have in one of those boxes that you have a strong skill set that you can really grow and do. There might be some things in that you don't have that skill set you want to bring somebody in for. It doesn't have to be overly expensive. So I think that's where you can leverage resources. You have, almost 50 people on this stream today. You can look at who's on this call or look at your own LinkedIn network and find where are the resources that can help you do what you want to do. What I do know is if we spend all of our days just trying to stay afloat, you'll fail. Those 9% of those businesses that survived, they did more than that. They didn't just work hard, they worked smarter. Working hard is not going to be good enough anymore. If you wake up at 4 in the morning and you're working till 1 in the morning, you're working hard, but you're not working smart, and it's not sustainable. So if you can think about it differently and leverage resources, where is your talent pool at? Where are your resources? Then you can make a difference and you'll thrive in this pandemic and not just hope to survive. Now, what are your thoughts on this, Frank?
Well, the thing that popped in my head as you were talking about leveraging the skill sets that you have in your workforce, I think we fail to mention that the companies that were successful, they increased marketing spend to more than pre-recession, and they improve their operational efficiencies. Those were the two things that they did. And when you think about organizational development and marketing, I'd like for people to get out of their mind what they think marketing is. Marketing is just not what you're seeing at the Super Bowl commercials anymore. It's not just, I always think of that movie Up, squirrel syndrome, where the dog is just squirrel, looking around like that. Marketing now really has to do with improving your efficiencies. As a matter of fact, according to marketingcharts.com, when you looked at the two marketing technologies that are at the top of the totem pole for the most successful companies, they are marketing automation and CRM, which go hand in hand.
For those
customer relationship management. So what marketing automation does is it automates a lot of those processes that are repetitive in sales and marketing. So, for example, we worked with a client came to us and said, "Hey, look, we would like you to build out a marketing automation process for us. We have a piece of software that does our proposals. We have an internal Slack communication. We have Google Drive for our documents. We have DocuSign for signing those. We have our proposal software. And guess what? Our office manager is handling all of that. We have our scheduling software, following up with people." Now, if you think about it this way, how much time is being spent by that one person? How much are you paying them per hour to do something that's repetitive that could be automated? So, but at the end of the project, we had basically whittled down the process to having the office manager do one thing. So scheduling was automated, follow-up was automated, pre-qualifying contact that would come in through a website or through social media was automated, document signing, proposal writing. The only thing that office manager had to do was to tag people in their customer relationship management system. Appointment scheduled, appointment finished. That's all they had to do. So when you look back to how much time now has been freed up for that manager to do other probably more productive things in that business, that was marketing. That's marketing technology. That's process efficiency. Pre-qualifying people to come in. How many of us out there get a phone call? I got a phone call. someone said, hey, I mean, you see my office, right? Someone said, hey, we're so-and-so from such and such cleaning company, and we'd like to know, do you need to have somebody come and clean your office? No, I don't need to bring a whole cleaning crew to clean my office. That was a waste of that salesperson's time. If they had pre-qualified me, and we don't need to get into specifics of that, I probably would have been seen as someone not even a warm lead. That person could have gone to someone that was a hot lead. So that's also, Kevin, correct me, isn't that also being more efficient for a company?
It actually is. So in automating processes, you make things more efficient and you reduce your cost structure. And in that scenario that you talked about, that office person, you don't need that person anymore, so you can reduce that fixed cost. Or perhaps that person is really a strong employee and has a strong skill set, and you can leverage that person in a different way.
Right.
They may want to be the one to look at other ways they can automate other processes across your organization that you may not be able to do right now. They might be the ones to go out and do some of the I call it the pavement work, going and seeing some of your customers. Maybe they don't need to be in office work anymore. Perhaps they could be one of your inside salespeople or outside salespeople. You can leverage that resource differently that might drive future revenues and reduce your cost structure. Another example of that is you mentioned, the customer relationship management. I had a client I worked with before, and like many of you on the stream here today, you have a list of customers. Well, obviously, some customers are not good customers. Not every customer is profitable. So we went through and looked at each customer. I know. The reality is, especially for small businesses, they don't always have the time to go through and determine the profitability of each customer. And not just their sales minus their margin, but how do you lay over your fixed cost across that and actually see, is it worth having this customer? And there's some customers that it's time, we call it cutting off the tail. You need to get rid of customers that are losing you money so you can focus on the ones that make you money and find new customers that might actually give you a better profit margin. Likewise, if you have different products or services, have you gone through those products and services to determine which ones are your higher margin services and products and which ones are not? Again, large organizations sometimes have the bandwidth and the resources to do this. I found that sometimes your medium and small size companies typically don't. And you could bring in someone, or again, you could maybe do it yourself, go through and look at that and look at those customers. And then if you can automate that, you can find that information out very quickly. And then you can take action, which allows you to execute, which is one of the frameworks we talked about before. Doing that allows you to execute. And execute.
You gave me goosebumps, man. You said something, and we were talking about how stories are really powerful. I'm sorry to cut you off.
That's good. No.
When you talked about looking at your different services, service offerings, product offerings, I remember years ago when we first started, and this was marketing was having a really hard time, digital marketing with demonstrating ROI. Now, I believe that it was very possible to do that, but even at a more basic level, it was a computer shop. And they said, hey, we need some marketing. We said, okay, let's look at what you do. They said, hey, okay, look, we sell computers. We have a brick and mortar. We fix computers. We sell them on Amazon, on eBay. And I was like, okay, so you have people that come in, you sell them, you fix computers, you build computers. I was like, out of everything you do, what is the most profitable? They said, oh, building video production and gaming computers. I was like, oh. Said, so that's the most profitable. They said, yeah. When we did our research, they had two major competitors nationwide in that space. Only two. Yet they were not focusing on building gaming computers and video production computers. And if anybody knows anything about the gaming industry, that is, they're making more money than Hollywood.
Yeah.
But that is an example of what Kevin was talking about, looking at everything that you offer and saying, okay, which one has the greatest profit margin for me? And for them, it was building gaming and video computers, which actually can be done remotely without the need for a brick and mortar, to be honest with you.
Well, how do you fix a computer remotely? Does somebody have to ship it to you? How does that work?
Well, not fix it. Building the computers you can do remotely. because people can just tell you what the requirements are. You don't need a brick and mortar for that. That could be done out of your home, to be honest with you.
Mm.
You know, so when you're looking at these, these fixed costs, that probably could have been one that could have been wiped out all totally, especially if we look at how the world is going nowadays, where a lot of things are done online.
Yeah.
So I think that speaks in directly to what you were talking about.
It is. It's all about efficiency, and efficiency is not just cutting costs. Efficiency is doing things differently and doing them better. Now, in doing things differently and doing them better, we have to be ready to fail. There is a do, learn, do part of this. And so not everything that you do will actually work the first time. But again, I'd argue that in times of a business pandemic or a massive recession, failure is going to be happening anyway. And if we just try to play it safe, we won't get there. I read a book recently. It's a book that's a little old called The Purple Cow. And one of the things it talked about was sometimes playing it safe is riskier than being risky. You can play it safe and you will find out you'll be out of business.
I like that.
Argument for those who are a little bit older, if you look at the automotive industry, that's exactly what happened. They got successful, they played it safe, and their competitors ate them alive. And today, Chrysler is now Daimler Chrysler, right? Ford and General Motors are not the big giants they used to be. The Japanese industry came in and overwhelmed them, and they overwhelmed them with process efficiency, which allowed their vehicles, their products to be more efficient and higher quality. They also saw a shift in the market going towards large vehicles that use a lot of gasoline to small ones. Fast forward 40 years, and we're seeing a new shift towards electric cars, right? We're seeing a shift towards, we're not going to drive as much anymore. And so those organizations who can adjust to that new reality of changing how the dynamic is working, if they can make their processes more efficient, which creates higher quality, lower cost, they might be able to actually price their products higher. Oftentimes using price as your go-to method, if I lower my price, I'll get more business, is not the way to go. Because the reality is a lot of people see price as a measure of value. Yeah. So you don't want to be the highest price out there, but you want to be high quality and price it accordingly. Listen, Apple is very successful, and it's not because they have lower prices. They build a rock solid system. They've been very innovative in how they've done it. They've been ahead of the market consistently, right? Apple posted a profit that exceeded expectations in the first quarter of this year. And it's not because they sold more iPhones. It's because they began to shift their business a little while ago to accessories and services. And now it's paying off in massive ways, right? And so you don't necessarily have to lower your price, but if you can be innovative, you can improve your processes, which keeps your costs low. If you can develop your employees, let's look at Apple. Apple brings in their employees and they train the heck out of them. When you go into an Apple store, the people there know what they're talking about. If you go on the phone with Apple and you talk to them on the phone, which I've done, they're very efficient and their staff know what they're talking about, right? They bring in top-notch staff and they pay them top dollars, right? They don't pay them cheap. They pay them at or slightly above market. And the result of that is they continue to sell products even in a pandemic. People are scammering to get the little AirPods that fit in the ear. Those, I think they're ugly, but people love them, right? They're convenient, they work well, and they've developed, as some of you know who are Apple users, they have a really good Apple Care program, which is their warranty program. So other companies are losing warranty business because their warranties are bad. They're not so helpful. Apple has a very strong warranty program. The point of all this is they were innovative. They continue to look at process efficiency. I've got someone I know, they have a business process reengineering organization inside of Apple. And they are hiring people right now into that organization during the business pandemic. They are growing the workforce in an area they think is going to help them drive their business. Now, I recognize Apple is a billion-dollar company, and most of you on the phone on this stream don't have billion-dollar companies. But the point is still the same. As a leader of the organization, if you can look at your process and re-engineer it, if you can build your marketing strategy and execute against it, wow, you can come out of this pandemic stronger than ever before and ahead of the game. So you mentioned, Franklin, how you've had clients that do things differently and how they've executed against it. Anything you want to share about that? And we may have had some questions come in. We could get into those a little bit later as well.
Yeah, no, great question. Again, I think it It has to do with, and you mentioned this, bringing in somebody that can think outside of the box. That also, one reason V2M2 Group has wanted to work with Bedrock Assets is as we sat down with clients, being a marketer, and came up with their marketing strategies, we would also look at revenue generation. So those were our KPIs. That's how we measured success. Were they getting a positive return on marketing investment? And we would look at some companies that would have a great big budget spend, and looking at time to close from if they have a 6-week time to close, and we knew that every time they closed a business, they were spending X amount on Google Ad consultants, which is why we wanted to work with someone like Kevin, who can come in and say, you know what, you're kind of bleeding money here. And you can actually run your processes more efficiently so that your marketing spend could actually become a net zero. You're saving 10 grand a month, and you're now going to be spending 5 grand on marketing instead of 15K. I mean, so that's why we decided to work with someone like Kevin. As far as so as an organization, we have pivoted where we started off doing, and this might help some of you to think about what you're doing. So we start off, and we still are, an all-inclusive digital marketing agency where we do everything in-house. Now, as we grew, we started to look at where is the market going? How can we become something of value rather than being commodity? I always tell my students, get paid for what you know, not for what you do, because what you do is always replaceable. So we started to look at where's the market going, and we said, marketing automation is going to be huge. It's going to really help with processes. And when we started doing marketing automation,
when you say marketing automation, Franklin, is that what you're talking about before, where you automate like the Google and those kind of things?
Yeah, yep, automate all of their repetitive marketing and sales processes. Okay. So when we looked at that, we said, this is where the market is going. And when we started, there was only 15% of businesses that were using it. This is in 2017. They predicted by 2021, there's going to be 86% of businesses.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
Crazy.
Wow.
So we jumped on a company that was little known, but I could afford them because I bootstrapped my business. Now they are the 3rd largest marketing automation company. They were little known. 50 employees, are over 500 now. And we became one of their 2 partners in the state of Illinois. They only had 50 partners worldwide. I mean, nationwide.
Wow.
So we also saw that social media, we were good at it. We built up a heck of a presence, more than our competitors. And we said, this is a great way to build that community and get them into this automated funnel. So as a company, we've pivoted to say, even though we can do all of these things, these have become our primary service offerings, because what they do is they help businesses generate measurable revenue, and our processes can be measured. So that's how we have pivoted. And thankfully so, that's the way the world is going. As we're seeing now in this pandemic, the importance of social media, having that presence. So that's how we've helped out our clients. We're helping out one right now that has not been able to open because of this pandemic. They're like, how am I gonna get the word out there for people to come into my establishment? Well, we know how, because we're leveraging technology, things like WhatsApp. We're leveraging social media to build their presence. So by the time they're ready to open, people just cannot wait for them to open. They're going to be rushing through the doors, So that's kind of a big example of how we help. We're getting down in time because we want to leave some time for questions.
Yes.
Kevin, how can organizational development be seen as a necessity? And do you see any relationship between org development and marketing, like the Harvard Business Review article stated?
Absolutely. I think with the article, if you read it, what it'll show is that you need offense and defense. It's like any sports. You have to have offense and defense, right? And so I think if you have them both and you do them both well, you got a winning combination. If you only have one, if you only have offense, then you get a team that scores a lot of points, but they lose all the time. If you only have defense, then no one ever scores against you. It's very difficult. But if they score one time, you've lost. And we've seen that as well. And that can happen in a business pandemic. I
Mm-hmm.
think what we bring together is offense and defense. And if it's not us, then find somebody that allows you to play the game with an effective offensive strategy and defensive strategy, where you have a coach on both sides of the game doing both. And with that, your business can thrive in a business pandemic. You can go through this time and struggle. It's going to be painful, but you will come out way ahead of your competitors if you think about things differently. If you, one, see the opportunity, because now is a time of opportunity, right? As Franklin mentioned this with his last client, how can he get people to come in? As they begin to lift the protocols in the various states that you're in, you are already seeing, you see the news, people are dying to get out the house and go somewhere, right? People want to go to Walmart just so they can have a place to go. So you're going to see some of that coming. It's a time of opportunity if you can seize it.
Right.
If you can learn how to innovate and be creative during this time, it's a great opportunity for you there as well, and think about things differently and create new products or services. But maybe you don't want to create new products or services. Maybe it's about learning, developing your people, developing yourself. I found that a lot of my clients, when I begin to talk to them, the last time they've actually invested in themselves and how they can expand their knowledge has been years. The last time they read a book has been years, whether it's a nonfiction book, especially. The last time they read a fiction book, years. The value of fiction books is it actually generates the creative juices in our brains that allow us to think differently about things, which will allow you to grow your business. Years. So it's a time of learning. It's a time of process improvement. Now's when you want to make sure you can improve your processes, get some help to do that, and find out where to begin and really drive it forward. And you'll be better than your competitors when you come out, because your competitors are only looking at cutting costs, and they're only looking at cutting their personnel costs, right? After that, they're just struggling. And then lastly, you got to execute. So when you have people like Franklin and I, we can help you with that offense. How do you do marketing in the new economy? And defense, how do you do process improvement and business analytics and business improvement in this current economy that's coming forward? I think we can bring that to bear. But if it's not Franklin and I, find someone or find the time to do it yourself. But you got to do it. Otherwise, when you come out of this crisis, you won't be better off for it. So we've got some questions that have come in. If you have some questions, there's a chat line. Feel free to pop those in and we'll answer them as best we can. I want to make sure, I think before we get off the line, we got Franklin with V2M2. He's got an excellent marketing services. I've been around him for a bit of time on nonprofit boards as well. And he has a keen mind around marketing and what it could do for middle and small and mid-sized businesses that he could bring to bear from his experiences, both in the military as a West Point graduate, but also as a leading salesperson in pharmaceuticals. So he's seen both sides of the table, and we'd like to help you, and we can answer some questions. We've got one right now asking, what books do you recommend? There are lots of books out there. I mentioned The Purple Cow already. I have some other books by tomorrow, but yeah, so that'll be one. I can't think of anything else. Any closing remarks for yourself?
No, I just echo everything that Kevin said. It's easy for us to sit here and talk about this because this is what we do. And for you as a business, you might be sitting there saying, I really don't know where to start. I really think that it is worth making the investment in someone that can look at the big picture. I always get this saying mixed up. See the forest through the trees through the forest. Which one is it? But if somebody's on the outside looking in, they can look at the market. They can look at the competitors. They can see what are they not doing. Kevin's been successful. He's worked with clients of mine and have helped a lot of people realize, hey, you know what? I need to step away from the business so I can see the big picture and do things that a CEO should do. He's been able to clear the murky waters, so to say, to see where they should focus. I'm a big risk taker. That's just me by nature. But I will say that my risks have paid off. Have I won every time? No, I have not. But I've learned from that experience, and it's helped my company to expand. You hear now what Twitter, Facebook are now allowing their people to work remotely permanently.
Facebook announced that last week. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I don't really want to get into it too much so we can answer some of these questions. But, when I first started, I said, my people are going to be project based and we're going to be remote. And a lot of people looked at me like, oh my gosh, how are you going to keep them motivated? How are you going to keep a control of them? How are you going to do this? Well, the pandemic hit. And guess what? Because we have not had that high overhead, because we built up that online presence, because the people are working remotely and we're used to doing this, it has not been a big adjustment for us. Mm-hmm. So, I think it is of utmost importance to invest in, if you don't have it within your own workforce, invest in those that can help your business see outside the box, can see the big picture. It will pay off. Trust me, it will pay off. And I've met a lot of consultants throughout my years. I've reached out to a lot, and I do have to say I am biased because I think Kevin is probably one of the most brilliant people that I've worked with, and I've heard nothing but great things from my clients that I've referred him to. So indecision is a decision. Okay, you need to make that step now if you're going to thrive in this business pandemic. All right, cool. We're open for any questions. My book, 4-Hour Work Week. That's the one I like. Spend as little time as you can on your job to be successful. Spend the rest of the time on your career. Think about that as it relates to your business. Okay, that's the book that I recommend.
Very good. Very good.
All right, cool. I guess that's it. We'll answer questions, and I'll end the broadcast.
Okay. If you should end the broadcast, and then the last thing you should say when you end it is
call us.
Yes. That's what I was gonna say. In the end, we're doing this to generate business. So if you want to close it out with whatever, but yeah, our names and our contact info.
Yeah, we'll do that. That's a good point. Okay.
Is it possible to post that as we exit the call?
I believe so. It says chat privately with your guests. Let me see, banners. All right, so we can do a banner. I can create a banner before. So if we get on early, I can create the banner.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can show the banner. We can also use a banner to summarize our talking points and display calls to action. So I'll create the banner. Yeah.
I like that. And every now and then I watch, oh my goodness. They just kept me. TD Jakes. And, certain times in the talk have a little banner, just let you know, hey, send us a little money or here's a contact information. So we can do something similar. I like that banner idea.
Okay, I'll do that. And if we can, maybe why don't we each think of 3 main points, and I'll create a banner for that. I'll put that on one banner, or 3 takeaways. We'll have 6 takeaways for the banner.
Okay.
All right, let me end this. So what did you